Hello and welcome to Movies for Dumb Guys. I'm your host, Joe Johnson. And with me, as always, is Ryan Sharp.
Freedom!
And Tim Williams.
Hail to the king, baby.
And today's theme is endings. We're going to talk about our favorite endings, our least favorite endings.
Our happy endings?
That's a different show. Endings that were like a punch to the gut, or maybe a shocking twist, or maybe just something that was unsatisfying. So that's going to be the theme of today's podcast. So let's get right into it. I'm going to talk about what I think is probably one of the most iconic endings in movies, one of the greatest endings in movies. Here's a little clip.
Oh my God. I'm back. I'm home. All the time it was. We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
The Planet of the Apes, the original, from what year was that? 1968. Not the remake where the Lincoln Memorial had a monkey on it. So yeah, I think that's one of the most iconic endings in movie history. One of the most parodied and quoted and mimicked and shocking endings of all time. Where and I guess I should say this before we really get into this. This show is going to be full of spoilers. So if there's some movies on here you haven't seen, you might want to look away. So having said that,
Look away for this podcast.
look away. So I feel like kind of Planet of the Apes had one of the greatest twists of all time. You know, here Charlton Heston and his fellow astronauts land on what they think is an alien planet. They discover it's run by apes and that humans are second-class citizens, and they think they've traveled great distances, only to find out at the very end they find the remains of the Statue of Liberty and realize that they never left Earth. They just traveled into the distant future. Ryan, what are your memories of the original Planet of the Apes?
Zero. Never saw it.
Wow, are you kidding me?
It just never interested me at all. The best Planet of the Apes thing was in Spaceballs. Other than that, not interested.
Wow. What about the
Didn't watch the remake either.
The trilogy, the recent
Nope.
trilogy? Those are great.
Not interested.
Wow. Okay. Tim?
I'm right along with you at number one, Planet
There
of the
you
Apes.
go.
Also parodied in my favorite comedy movie, Strange Brew. But yeah, this is like you said, just iconic, and Rod Serling wrote this, right? I mean, if you
Yeah, it definitely has that Twilight Zone.
yeah, exactly. I believe that they did do a Twilight Zone very similar to that, where they shot where the astronauts went up into space and they crashed. They thought they were on Mars, but turned out they were in the Arizona desert the whole time.
Yeah. Interesting.
But did not have the ape aspect of it. But yeah, it's funny because when I was looking at other people's lists, a lot of people had this listed as their one of the best.
Yeah.
And the Marky Mark version as the worst. Which I didn't really think that, because I just thought that whole Marky Mark movie sucked anyway.
Yeah, I forget that it even existed. That
Yeah.
was just pointless.
But you're right. The last three, the trilogy that they recently did, those movies were great. But there was really no twists in those movies. I mean, but they didn't really need to.
No, what those movies basically did is explain how they got to where they got to in the original Planet of the Apes. Because if you were to see it when it first came out, it's like, okay, how did this happen? How did the apes take over and the humans fall to second tier?
Right.
And the recent trilogy, I thought did a fantastic job
Yeah, it did.
of explaining how that happened. And
It definitely
it
did.
was great. So it all ties in really nicely.
Mhm.
Now, the sequels to the Planet of the Apes, those original sequels, those are kind of hit and miss. War for Planet of the Apes, and you know what I'm talking about, the original ones. With
Yeah,
Roddy McDowell
yeah, they
and all
did
that.
what? They did probably 6 of them.
Yeah,
6
yeah,
sequels.
Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Yeah,
well, you got to tap that cash cow when you
Right.
got to strike while the iron's hot. The second one was bad. Some of them are okay, but yeah, they got really goofy.
yeah,
But the first one definitely
yeah.
is all-time classic. Also, it spurred on Joe Flaherty's Charlton Heston imitation on SCTV, which is basically him just going, damn you to hell the whole time.
I think he did that as Moses, didn't he?
He did, yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's his style. All right, moving on to number 2. This is kind of a tie between 2 movies from the same universe. This is one of my favorite endings of all time. I'll play a clip and then explain why.
Ain't gonna be no rematch. Ain't gonna be no rematch. Don't want one.
Goosebumps. That is the ending to Rocky. What I love about the ending to the original Rocky is that, again, spoiler alert, he doesn't win. He doesn't win the fight. The whole fight is just supposed to be sort of an exhibition. Even though it's a title shot, but it was just, Apollo took it lightly and said, let's give this guy a shot. People will tune in and watch. And then Rocky steps in the ring. They dance around a little bit. Apollo's not taking it seriously. And then Rocky knocks him on his ass. And I was on my feet cheering. And they go toe to toe. They're just beating the crap out of each other. Apollo gets the advantage. Rocky gets the advantage. It goes back and forth until the final bell rings. And they announce a split decision. And Apollo keeps the belt. And what I love about it is that I think it would have been cliche had he won. I love the fact that they celebrated that he just went the distance, that he went all the rounds against the champ and almost pulled it off at the end. I just think that was just such a great way to end that movie.
Yeah, they saved the cliches for all the sequels after that.
The sequels. Well, now Rocky 2, which I'm putting into this in the number 2 spot here, Apollo saying there ain't going to be no rematch. Well, of course, there was a rematch, and they fought. And then what they did in Rocky 2 is they both throw that last punch. Both of them fall on their butt, and as the referee is counting, they're both scrambling to stand up, and Rocky gets to his feet first and ends up taking the title. So a lot of people call that one of the greatest endings of all time, and it was a pretty damn exciting ending. So Rocky 2, I think 2 of the greatest endings in movie history. Ryan, your thoughts on the endings to Rocky, the Rocky movies?
Well, Rocky is definitely way up there on my movie lists of all time. I love Rocky and everything that goes along with it. I did see this on a lot of lists for greatest endings, and I disagree, sort of. It turned a great boxing movie into a stupid love story. So he didn't care about he didn't listen to who won the fight. All he cared about was finding Adrian and getting Adrian through this crowd. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's so cool. You got it in the background, who's winning, and he doesn't care. And then they find each other and embrace. And it shows that they're just 2 hearts beating as one, and they just love each other and confess their love. I don't need that romance crap.
So
This is a boxing movie. It was awesome up to that point. They didn't need to throw that in there. But they're still some of my favorite movies of all time.
Man.
There's a movie out there for you called Raging Bull.
And I like Raging Bull.
Tim, your thoughts on the Rocky endings?
I did not put these on my list, but I was pretty young when I saw it, and I think that I saw the second one at the theater before I ever saw the first one.
Wow.
So, and I was young, but it had been like so long since I'd seen him. And then when 3 came out, it was on cable, and I watched it all the time, and 4 and so on. But it's been so long since I've seen the first 2. That's probably the main reason why I haven't put them.
I would
put them
even
on my list. But
say that number 4 had a better ending than number 2.
Refresh my memory. How did 4 end?
It's where it's not
So-
good, but it's where he talks to all the Russians and
if I
could change, you could change.
everybody could change.
Yeah, Rocky 3 is a little bit more formulaic. It's like he gets cocky, he gets his ass kicked, and then he trains for real this time, and he gets the title back. I enjoyed Rocky 3, but that's more of a crowd-pleasing formula thing. I like when movies kind of go against the grain sometimes and aren't so predictable.
But 3 and 4 are my favorite Rockies.
Oh yeah. Movies as a whole, they're entertaining as hell.
I kind of am partial to 5.
That one, shut your whore mouth.
That one definitely
Get out.
Avoided all the cliches.
That ending was great.
All the cliches of a good movie.
That's hilarious. All right. Let's move on to number 3 on my list. I remember going to see this movie in the theater and walking out of the theater looking at the world in a completely different way. It really changed my view of the world. That's how
I know what you're
this
going to
movie
say. I bet you I
impacted me.
know what you're going to say.
And I remember the ending of this was so great that I almost, on one hand, like I wanted to see where the story was going to go next, but on the other hand, I didn't want it ruined. But here's a little lead up to the ending of this movie.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
He hangs up the phone, cut to an aerial shot, and he flies into the air like Superman. I thought that was one of the greatest endings. I mean, that on top of what I feel is one of the greatest fight scenes of all time when Neo fights Agent Smith. And to end it on that note where he realizes that because it's a computer simulation that anything is possible and he can fly like Superman, I thought that was one of the greatest endings of all time. Now, like I said, I almost didn't want a sequel because I'm like, how can that possibly live up to the expectations you had at the first one? And most people consider the sequels pretty disappointing, even though I thought the second one, which one was the second one? Wasn't Revolution.
Reloaded.
Reloaded. Matrix. I thought Matrix Reloaded was okay, but I don't think it really went in the direction that people expected after the end of the first one. But I thought The Matrix had one of the greatest endings of all time. Ryan, do you concur?
No. It's not on my list. It again, I was late to the Matrix party, and I didn't see it till just not too long ago. It's, again, not really my thing. And screw Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to bring up painful memories.
Didn't you meet him?
Yeah, I met Keanu, and not a fan. What a dick.
Tim, what are your
But that
thoughts?
had no bearing on the movie, by the way.
What are your thoughts on The Matrix?
Oh, we've
and its
discussed this
ending?
in past episodes, and I was a huge fan of The Matrix when it was called Dark City a couple years before
Here
that.
we go.
I saw Dark City on a few lists as well.
For endings?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Do you happen to remember what the ending of Dark City was?
I don't remember what the very last scene was or anything, but if you've ever seen it, it is very, very, very similar to The Matrix, but it's like in a dream world instead of The Matrix. But
Now,
pretty much the same thing.
when I made my list, I didn't base it on the exact final credit roll. It's like just the end of the.
Well, mine isn't either.
Okay.
But I just.
Okay.
I do remember. Yeah, him, and yeah. Now that you mention it, the main guy.
We didn't.
The main guy and girl, and I can't remember even who they were, but they finally. I think they're walking out on a dock, and it's like a big happy ending where they escape the dream world.
Okay.
What did they wake up?
I don't remember.
All right.
I had to see it.
Well-
don't ask me the hard questions.
I think
Sorry.
The Matrix is one of the greatest movies of all time. I'm not going to get into my whole other universes, the computer simulation speech. I'll save that for later. All right, number 4 on my list. I don't have a clip for it
full hour.
because
You saying our univerce? You said our
the
universe?
universe that we live in currently. Yeah,
Right.
that's a different
Right.
podcast.
We've had that conversation.
Number 4 on my list, I don't have a clip for because it's one long kind of musical montage. But I absolutely love the ending to La La Land. And I know La La Land isn't everybody's cup of tea. I mean, it's specifically the ending because it's not the happy fairy tale ending that most people expect when they go see a movie. But what I loved about the ending to La La Land is that it felt real to me. It felt genuine. For those of you who might not be familiar with it, we follow the romance of Mia and Sebastian throughout, 90 minutes or so of this movie, only to find out at the very end that they don't end up together. They came into each other's lives, touched each other's lives, affected each other's lives, and then it was revealed that they
Touched
went
each
their
other.
separate ways. But I'm not necessarily referring to that, even though I did enjoy that take. But then they do this what if montage. What if everything had gone smoothly? What if they did end up together at the end? What if they did get married and have kids? And so seeing that what if things were different? What if things went this way? Was so amazing. Like how they kind of redid the entire movie in those last 5 minutes or whatever to show you what might have been. And then at the very end, they kind of give each other a look and go their separate ways forever. I absolutely love the end to La La Land. Ryan?
This made my list
Hey, look at that.
under the worst endings.
Wow.
I absolutely hated that montage. It sucked.
Wow, that surprises me.
Why does that surprise you? It was
thought
nothing
it
but
was
like, look how
great.
happy you could be, but you're not.
Yeah, that's life, man. That's
That
life.
maybe that's your life, and you need to redo your Matrix. But I just thought it was a crappy way to view things, and like they could have. I don't know what the point was and why they had to include this in the film. It could have just been they could have had that moment where they exchanged looks and smiled at each other, and he just stared down at his piano and was clearly more upset than she was. She looked more like she was having like a fond memory and like, oh, there he is, but he looked like I want her back kind of thing. That could have been the end right there. They didn't have to put that whole montage in there, and I think it brought the movie down a little bit. I enjoy the movie.
I think the
don't like it.
reason behind the montage is that the movie itself is basically a love letter to Hollywood and Los Angeles, and they showcase all the different locations and everything. And I think,
No. That's your vacation trip.
Well, I
That's
live
what
it
that-
every time I go to LA.
That's what that is.
But the montage, I think, was a tribute to the great musicals, the Gene Kelly musicals of the 40s and stuff like that. Where like at the end of American in Paris, it's like a big fantasy dance sequence with bright colors and abstract images and stuff. And so I think the movie ended as an homage to the great movie musicals of the golden age. And that's one of the reasons I loved it.
See, movies are, and we've talked about it before. Movies, escapism. I want to be entertained. I want to forget about the bad in the world and just live in a different world for a couple hours where everything's rosy.
Mm-hmm.
And this killed it. And I mean, it's so sad to see like what could have been and what should have been, and if you just would have said one thing different or showed up 10 minutes earlier, reacted differently to this one conversation. You'd be happy and living the life, but no. So
Tim, do you agree?
garbage.
Never seen it.
Never saw La La Land?
No.
All the times it's come up for conversation on this podcast, you never said, you know what, maybe I should see this movie.
Never.
Oh, my God. All right.
Well, like the guy on Billy on the Street said, you're not going to like it for the first 4 times that you watch it. But that 5th time, Emma Watson puts on a show.
All right.
All right. Well, if you didn't like that ending, you're not going to like this ending.
I told you. You die for that. You should have gone for the head.
What'd you do? I love the ending on Infinity War. The only complaint that I have is we know it's not permanent. We know it's not going to stick because we know there are more Marvel movies coming out. We know that there's a sequel coming out. And I almost wish there wasn't. I almost wish that this first phase of the Marvel Universe ended on that note. I thought it was bold. I thought it was daring to end the movie like that. I remember sitting in the theater going, what the hell did I just see? The audience sat there stunned. How many movies can you say that you've seen where you sat and lingered in the theater stunned at what you just saw on the screen? I thought it was an incredible ending to a movie. Unfortunately, we know that they're going to, the Avengers are somehow going to change the ending of that movie. But Ryan, did you have the same feelings you had for La La Land? Like, man, this is a downer.
No. And I can't really explain why it didn't bother me. Maybe it was because we knew it wasn't really the end. But I thought the performances were great, and the way that they, made people pass on with the streaming, thought that was really creative, and was a great way to do it. They just kind of disintegrate, and of course we've talked about it before. Spidey putting on that Oscar Academy Award performance there.
Speaking of Oscars, I was shocked that Infinity War lost to First Man for best special effects. I thought what they did in Infinity War, turning the actors into ash, was spectacular and unlike anything we've seen in movies.
Yeah,
so I was a little disappointed by that.
But if we learn anything from Gravity, it's that those movies will win those awards.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised with that. But no, yeah, I thought it was a great way. And the theater I was in did the same thing. Everybody was like, wow. Everybody was blown away. Everybody had to stop for a second and think about what just happened. And it was definitely one of the better endings to a movie.
Yeah, emotional. Tim?
Yeah, I actually have this as my number 5. And, we've kind of discussed this before. It's almost like a modern day Empire Strikes Back.
Did you cry?
Type of feeling.
I might have teared up a little bit during the Spider-Man scene.
I couldn't remember if he cried.
I don't think I was snot crying or anything, but I think my eyes teared up a little bit.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what you said about that. But but yeah, same thing. Everybody was stunned. I knew that something was going to happen just because I was somewhat familiar with the Infinity Gauntlet storyline from the comics. I never actually read it, but I knew enough about it where it was going to be a big deal. And really, we don't know. I mean, we do know that it's going to be a sequel. They probably made a mistake. Well, maybe they didn't, because there might have been a big backlash if it really would have ended that way. People might have been like really upset about it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake to announce that it was going to be a 2-parter, I think it might have had more of an impact.
Right.
It still had a huge impact on people, but I think it might have had more of an impact if people wouldn't have known that it was going to be a 2-part.
Yeah, and I mean, they dropped hints too that the ending wasn't final because Doctor Strange, he went into the future, he saw all the outcomes, he saw there's one scenario where they win, and then just before he kind of fades off into obscurity, he says to Tony that this had to happen for that one scenario to play out. So they were dropping hints that, okay, this might not be the end.
I mean, we don't know for a fact that every single character is going to come back.
Right.
I mean, we obviously some of them are going to come back, but we don't know.
I could pick a few they could leave off.
Come back.
Well, that's why I'm so eagerly anticipating the sequel coming out in April. Is who's going to come back? How's this going to get resolved? What role is Captain Marvel going to play?
Wait a minute.
A lot of questions.
The sequel is coming out this April already.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I didn't
Like
even
a week,
realize
like
that.
a week
Yeah,
after
see?
Captain Marvel.
Seriously?
Not
maybe
a
2
week,
weeks.
but maybe a month. It's April. So
Oh, wow.
Captain Marvel comes out
Cool. I didn't
March.
even realize that.
March 6th or something, or March 7th.
Yeah,
but
like a week or two, right?
But yeah, so Infinity War is right around the corner.
I'm
So
gonna look it up.
All right,
we'll
cool.
see how it all plays out. All right, so that's my top 5 favorite endings. I have a bunch worthy of discussing, and then I have my top 5 worst endings that we'll get to in a little bit. But let's go around the table. Ryan, throw out one of your all-time favorite movie endings.
Well, one of my all-time favorite movie endings is this little movie that we all know and love called Usual Suspects.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what this movie was. I was, like asked to go to hey, you want to come check out this movie with me? I'm like, what is it? They're like, Usual Suspects. I was like, I don't know what it is. Let's go. And was just absolutely blown away. And it's, I still rank it very highly as a movie overall, but I did not see the ending coming in any way, shape, or form. Like, it just was a complete shock and so creative. Like, I was like, wow, that's genius.
Yeah.
Everything about it was genius.
Yeah, I think most people would agree that that's one of the greatest endings in movie history. And
Everybody but Joe Johnson, who didn't have it in his top
it's
5.
not my top 5 favorites, but I do think it's one of the greatest movie endings of all time. I have it on my honorable mention list. But I was watching it again because I was trying to find a soundbite that I can play for the podcast, but there is no single soundbite. It's like this cacophony of lines and names that Kevin Spacey threw out, and as the one cop sitting on the desk looking at the corkboard with all the stuff, and
He said Kofiki?
drops coffee and finally figures it out.
but it's just so as they're playing back dialogue, you see the things on the board, and I couldn't find a single soundbite.
The only sound clip you needed was the one guy who was like, guys are so say.
Yeah,
That would have been good enough.
yeah.
Way to screw it up.
But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to make the viewer realize that most of what they seen leading up to the end was all BS, horse hockey.
Yep.
Tim, do you agree?
This is my number 2, and I did not see this at the theater, but I had heard good things about it, so I rented it with no idea, really what it was. Just that people had liked it, and same thing. I had no idea that was coming at the end. Another movie that's spurred on a lot of parodies. Deputy Doofy or whatever, and whatever Richie Rollins' performance to last time he was on here.
All right. He was just to catch people up. What was the topic?
I don't even remember now.
And so when it was Richie's turn to list movies, we realized he's looking at the poster behind me, rattling off titles, and so he pulled a Kaiser Soze on us.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, I really liked that movie as well.
Yeah,
That ending kind of came out of nowhere.
Yep. All right, good one.
Thanks.
What else you got?
This one will come as no surprise as well, and that's Sixth Sense. I mean, again, total surprise. I maybe didn't pay enough attention to the movie when I was watching it because some people said they have picked up on what was going on. I think you might have said that, right?
Yeah, I'll
I
tell that.
He
I had no I had no idea what was going on.
Oh, I'm right
and-
there with you. I was completely blindsided by the ending.
Yeah, and so when it was a huge shock to me. I was like, "Holy crap! What just happened? That's awesome! What a great idea!" Shyamalan, a ding dong. Good job, good job.
Now I have a clip from the movie. It's not necessarily the end, but let me play a clip.
I see dead people.
In your dreams? While you're awake? Dead people like in graves and coffins?
Walking around like regular people. They don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
How often do you see them?
All the time. They're everywhere.
Now, one of the reasons this
And
movie
you're one of them.
well, I think one of the reasons that this movie did so well at the box office, I mean, it was a great movie, but I don't know if you could agree with me here, but after seeing it, I had to see it again because I needed to now scrutinize the movie and say, okay, no, someone had to have interacted with Bruce Willis's character. And you watch it and you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Like when he's sitting at the restaurant table with his wife and he reaches for the check, but she grabs it, and how he just never really interacted with anyone but the boy. It was just brilliant. So it's one of those movies you have to see multiple times.
Not me. Only because, unfortunately, I had read reviews, but it didn't tell me what the twist was, but it told me that there was a great twist. So I was looking for the twist. I figured it out immediately as soon as they showed him interacting with the kid. And I whispered to my first ex-wife, I said, I bet you he's dead. And she's like, no. Then a little while later, she like hits me and is like, if you ruin this movie for me, but listen,
Bet you Darth Vader is his father.
But anyway, listening to that clip, and speaking of Darth Vader, how did George Lucas not cast him as young Anakin Skywalker?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, come on.
That could be a whole completely different podcast. Is all-time great child performances.
Yeah, if
and
anybody
that
doesn't
would
know,
be
it
up
came
near-
down to those two.
Yeah.
The one that he picked and Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah,
Even watching the screen tests, Haley Joel Osment blows that kid away.
yeah. I don't know what Lucas was thinking.
I think he was basing it more on looks
Yeah,
than anything. 'Cause
yeah.
You know.
I don't know. Yeah, it was one of the all-time great child performances. Yeah. All right.
All right. So number 3 on my list is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. I'm a big baseball fan, and I think Field of Dreams has an amazing, amazing ending.
Refresh my memory.
Let me refresh your memory. So, end of the movie, the White Sox go back into the corn and disappear. And this time they take Mufasa, Darth Vader, James Earl Jones. They take him with them.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
There you go. So, so he goes with them, and then, one of them is hanging out and stays behind, and it's Kevin Costner's dad. And he's like, do you want to have a catch? And it's just, a father and son playing catch, and it's something that he didn't get. And it's kind of emotional and, bringing father and son together through baseball, and just a great, great send-off to a great, great film.
All right. I mean, I've seen it. I don't think the movie speaks to me the way it does to kids who grew up playing ball with their dad.
Okay, so I didn't play ball with my dad. My dad was gone. I never had a father, but I found sports, and so the sentiment of it, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't have to relate to it.
All right. Yeah. Tim, your thoughts?
I've probably only seen this movie one time, but I did like it, and I did like the ending. But it's it's not one that I revisited or it really, had any type of impact on me or anything. Not saying it's, not a great ending or anything, but it's
Joe.
just nothing that resonated with me.
I want you to go back and watch just the ending
Mm-hmm.
and let me know if you cry now.
Probably not, but
No.
I
How
will
are you gonna
say
cry at Toy Story 3, but you wouldn't cry at this one?
because I relate to
so-
Toy Story 3. I've
You-
lived Toy Story 3.
So weird.
I will say that one of my hobbies is visiting filming locations, and on my bucket list is the cornfield in Iowa, which is a tourist attraction, and you could go and play some ball and hang out at the Field of Dreams. So I
Go
want
have
to
a catch.
check that off my list, maybe this summer. We'll
It's
see.
on my list as well. We've talked about it many times. I'll definitely go.
All right.
You can play the dad.
Want to have a catch, son? And then
I'm gonna
I'll
be like, no, and run off.
throw the ball into the dirt.
Yeah, they even have like mitts and stuff there. You don't even
Yeah.
have to bring your own.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool experience. So check it out on Facebook and Google.
Field of Dreams.
The Google.
All right.
Uh,
Next.
My number 4 is going to be, we just recently talked about it, and that is American Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
He says that, but on that podcast, he said, if we ever do a greatest endings, I want to bring up American Beauty.
well, go ahead and explain why you chose it, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in.
I just think it was a great ending to like a film that you really didn't know where it was going or what to expect, and it kind of changed direction a few times, and I didn't see that coming at all, and so the element of surprise, I guess.
I loved this movie, but I don't remember what the ending was. Besides the girl, falling apart. I mean, that probably wasn't the very, very ending.
No,
but
we're talking about the neighbor, the dad, who suspected that his son was gay or wasn't happy about his son being gay, and he suspected that his son was having a relationship with Kevin Spacey's character, and put an end to that. Toot sweet. You remember that?
nope.
No.
What did he do? He came over and killed him or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Man, I
killed-
totally forgot about that. part.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a pretty
I
big
totally
part.
forgot. Yeah, I know. I don't know why. I really liked that
Blocked
movie, but
it
I
out.
totally
Yeah.
forgot about that.
It
No,
was so
that's,
traumatic.
That is an ending I would describe as a gut punch. Like, I loved Kevin Spacey's character in this movie. You cheered him on, you rooted for him, and for it to end the way it did was a gut punch. It was heartbreaking and numbing. So I don't know if I can call this one of my favorite endings, but it's definitely one of the most memorable endings I've ever seen where you're numb afterward. Like, really? That's how he goes out? And it was all a misunderstanding. Like,
Right.
the dad thought he
Well, yeah,
saw
right,
something
right.
that.
Well,
No,
no. I think it was because he rejected the dad when the dad came over and like kissed him.
Well, that
and
was part of it. Yeah, yeah.
So like, I'm not. Now I'm
Yeah, he didn't want that to get out.
doing that. And
Yeah.
You picked my son over. It was like a perfect storm, I think.
Yeah. Oh, heartbreaking. All right.
All right.
Let's bring things back up, man. Bring the room back up.
So this one I didn't really see on anybody's list, but it meant something to me as a kid, and that is The Breakfast Club. That speech that Anthony Michael Hall, whom
Wrote.
we've met
Oh,
multiple times.
Yeah, several times.
Yeah. So yeah, my buddy Michael Hall there did a great little speech at the end, and they did the voiceover where everybody kind of voiced their position, their status, and then you get that iconic Judd Nelson walk into Simple Minds with that fist up there and that freeze frame, and he's left all pumped and jazzed, and I don't know. It was like I thought that was the coolest thing ever when I was a kid.
I read something recently that filming that last shot with Judd Nelson, they tried many things, tried different ways. Nothing seemed to be working. And they were like, Judd, you got anything? And he's like, I'll come up with something. And so they rolled. He walked. He threw his fist in the air. They decided that was it. Freeze frame. One of the greatest final frames, I think, of all time in any movie. I mean,
I'm not
just
gonna
a
argue.
way to end that, man. Just and that letter was a big middle finger to the principal. What was the principal's name? I forget what his name was.
Yeah.
I don't know what
He
his
just
name was.
rated Barry Manilow's wardrobe. But
Right.
but yeah, that speech was basically a big middle finger, and they said, "Here, you take care of it," and he wrote it as if it was poetry and turned it in and said, "Screw you." And yeah, that's a awesome ending. The only complaint I have about the ending of Breakfast Club is how they kind of paired off like the guys and the girls. That kind of bugged me a little bit. That, and I think we've discussed this before, where Judd Nelson's character basically verbally abused Molly Ringwald's character throughout the entire film, and then somehow they hook up at the end, and then
So you're
But
saying
how
you're
many-
upset because it's true to life.
Exactly. How many movies are like that?
I know,
just
it doesn't mean I
mentioned-
gotta
Not
like it.
even
You just
movies.
mentioned-
How many relationships
Well, exactly.
do you know?
just mentioned the wrestler to me, and it's the same thing. It's
Oh, yeah,
it's in like every movie just about.
Yeah, I mean, in The Wrestler, I just saw it for the first time recently, and she shoots him down through the whole movie, and then he finally is like, "Screw you," and he's awful to her, and she smacks him, and then all of a sudden she's, "Ooh, I'm intrigued," and
But
it's
the
like,
thing,
come on,
but
man,
no. But the thing was, in that movie, I feel that she liked him the whole time,
right?
but because of her job and the way she had to treat people as customers and not real people,
Yeah,
that was the whole thing. And then finally, she kind of lowered her defenses
when he said
That's what-
"Screw you" and stormed out, but.
pretty much. But
So that's one
Still.
pet peeve I have. And then I didn't even see Emilio Estevez and Ali Sheedy. I didn't even see the chemistry there. Like, he had no interest in her until she got like this makeup
So she
applied,
get-
and it's
took
like,
hot-
again, real
but
life.
see, but
That's
I'm
real
like,
life.
Yeah,
really,
when a girl
man?
takes a shower, it changes things.
I liked her better as
washes
the
her hair
emo
and-
character, but
You liked her better, all stanky and pixie stick.
I just felt the movie would have been better if they didn't pair them up romantically. They should have just all went their separate ways at the end of the movie. I think would have been a better ending. But
Well, we don't know that on Monday that they were still friends.
that's true. That's true. I'll have to do the Breakfast Club sequel.
Yeah, let's
30,
get to
30
work.
years later.
Let's get to work on that.
It'll just be a going to class. And
Right.
that's it.
All right. How many is that for you?
That was my 5.
All right, Tim.
We've
throw
actually,
something at us.
yeah, we've actually covered 4 of my top 5.
Look at that.
The only other one that I have is my number 3, and that is 7.
7.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Don't
in the
ruin my
box?
sound clip.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's going on over there? Put the gun down.
Show you with the box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, David.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box?
Not until
Holy crap. It's so. I'm going to keep my language clean here. It is so messed up, that ending. Like, one of the most shocking, twisted endings in the
I remember.
history of movies.
I just remember seeing that movie, and that's another one that I didn't really know a whole lot about. I mean, the trailers looked good, but they didn't really reveal a lot in the trailers. So then when you go to see it, it's like so many scenes where the crowd was just like, "Oh my god!" Like when they think that guy's dead, and then he's hanging over him, and the glutton guy, and then the ending, because you're like wondering what the other deadly sins are going to be.
Right.
And you're getting to the end of the movie, and you're like, I know this has to be the end, but how come they haven't revealed these other ones? Maybe
Yeah.
they're not going to. And then the big twist.
Yeah. Now, I have to admit, I watched this movie in fast motion.
What?
And let me explain why. So, years ago, we did a little cable TV show called Movies for Dumb Guys. Years ago at the old Lake Orion TV studio. And me and my interns got together and we talked about our favorite horror movies. And one of the titles that my intern threw out at the time was 7, which up until that point I hadn't seen. So we recorded our commentary and everything, and then it came time for me to sit down and edit it all together with clips from the movies we discussed. And so my intern provided a copy of 7, and I had to sit there and find clips to put in the show. And so having never seen it, I kind of skimmed through it and was kind of watching it. I'm like, man, this movie's messed up, man. But I would skim through it, and I would stop, and I would watch some, and then I'd skim and watch. And then I got to the end, and I was like, it made me almost like physically ill when I got to the ending, because it was that shocking and that disturbing.
I'll tell you what, that was definitely a great movie to experience in a theater a packed theater,
Yeah.
and just watching everybody else's reactions to it.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't so shocking to me because I'd already seen a lot of stuff, a lot
Yeah.
of like horror stuff. But I mean, as far as that goes, but the ending was definitely a great twist.
Now, what do you think was the consequences of Brad Pitt's character's actions at the end? What do you think happened
He had
after?
to be done. His career had to be done. I mean, psychologically, that would have been it anyway. But then on top of killing him,
Yeah.
while he was in custody, that had to be it.
Yeah. But I mean, God, who's the guy to say? I mean, knowing what had happened to his I don't know if it was his girlfriend or
I think they were
fiance or
married.
married or whatever, but
Maybe not. I don't remember.
boy, who's the police chief or whatever that says, turn in your badge? Like, my God, it's such a complex situation. But
even if that wasn't the case psychologically, I don't think he
I'm
would
sure
have been
you
able to
can't
do
come
the
back
job
from
anymore.
that.
Anyway.
Yeah. Ryan, what are your thoughts on 7?
You guys kind of summarized it all up. Good pick.
Thank you.
Did you see that in the theaters or did
No,
you
I
see
didn't
it
see
on
it in
video?
theaters.
And
Video.
What was your reaction when?
I already knew.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because it was video, so it was kind of lost a little bit on me.
Yeah. I could imagine sitting in the theater watching that for the first time, having no idea what's in the box, and then finding out what's in the box. Man, that
Yeah. I mean,
crud.
honestly, I was not expecting that ending. I mean, a lot of times I'll be able to kind of figure out where something's going, and I didn't think it was going that way. Definitely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to throw out, or do you want to move on to our least favorite endings?
We can just move on to our least. Well, let me just throw one other one out that I had as an honorable mention, and that's Quentin Tarantino's first bigger movie, and that's Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah.
Kind of along the lines, well, not really along the lines of 7, more along the lines of maybe Infinity War, where everybody gets killed.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
And that was another movie where somebody had told me to watch it, not read the back of it or anything, and just check it out. And so at first I'm just like, yeah, what's going on, And then when it ended, I was like, wow, that's that's pretty bold.
Surprised you picked that
ended
over
that way.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but the ending of Pulp Fiction, I mean, it's fantastic, but it kind of wraps back around on itself. So
Right.
it's not like it just comes out of the blue.
If I can go back in time and undo something, I wish I can go back and watch Reservoir Dogs before Pulp Fiction. I saw Reservoir Dogs after Pulp Fiction, and
If you go back in time, that's what you're doing?
well, you know what I mean. I regret not having seen Reservoir Dogs first because after seeing Pulp Fiction, which is Tarantino's masterpiece, Reservoir Dogs is good, but it's no Pulp Fiction. So I wish I would have seen that first, then seen Pulp Fiction. But
It definitely helped with Pulp Fiction because I remember I took a date who had never seen Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction, and she was totally lost. And at least I had seen Reservoir Dogs to kind of know Tarantino's style, with the jumping around and all that. So.
yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the, in my opinion, worst movie endings. And we're going to start off with number 1. I don't have an audio clip for this. I just have to describe it. So, The Mist. Now, was this based on a Stephen King?
It's a Stephen
novel,
King short story, I want to say.
Which in some ways is similar to The Fog, but not quite. But so I'm watching The Mist for the first time, starring Thomas Jane, who we met on the set of 61.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and so I'm watching it, and I'm kind of getting into it, but I'm like, I liked it better the first time around when it was called The Fog.
Even though The Fog is absolutely nothing like that.
No, I know, but it's the same concept. So this one had more of a sci-fi feel, where The Fog had more of a horror feel. But so I'm watching it, I'm kind of getting into it, and then it's getting to the end where there's just kind of hopelessness and desperation, and Thomas Jane ends up. How many people does he end up killing in the car? Like,
there was probably maybe 1, 2, 3, probably 4 other people in the car.
all right. So he basically
Including his son.
offs them because he just doesn't see any way out of this, and it's just a matter of time before these aliens catch up to him or whatever. So he basically offs everyone in the car, and he's ready to take himself out, right? when all of a sudden the mist kind of clears and the military rolls in and the cavalry comes in just seconds too late after he killed everybody. And I wanted to smash my television.
No. You were watching it at my house, I believe.
Oh, was it?
And so you probably would have wanted to smash my television.
I was angry. I was angry at this ending. I thought it was the worst ending I'd ever seen in a movie to end it that way and then have the cavalry ride in. Oh, my God, I was pissed.
I didn't like the ending either. I liked the movie up until that point, and that is not how the book ends. I don't know if you remember, right before they go to that scene, they're driving, and there's like a giant monster like walking across, and basically that's where the book ends.
Yeah.
Frank Darabont, being the big liberal that he is, wanted to tack that on there as an anti-gun message.
Yeah.
So that's why you get that crappy ending.
Yeah.
So
it was awful.
Anyway, but I mean, I don't know. It was just a little too convenient too that he was just about to do it, and then right then they show up. I mean, seriously, seconds later.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess they had to do it that way, but it was just way too convenient.
Yeah.
But I do like that movie, and I really like. They actually put it out in a black and white version too, and I think it's more effective that way. But yeah, they could definitely just have ended the movie where the book ended.
Yeah, yeah.
Never appealed to me. I didn't like. The Fog didn't appeal to me, even though it's a completely different movie. This didn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah. Don't bother.
I'm not. What did it come out in like 2000?
The Mist?
No. It was probably like 2010 around there or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it was way after we did the 61 thing.
Okay, so 9 years,
yeah.
Still not interested.
Yeah. All right, number 2 might come as a bit of a surprise. Most people consider the original Superman one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Some might argue that it's the greatest comic book movie of all time. I remember when it came out, they did things in the movie that we had never seen done in movies before. It was absolutely convincing to see Christopher Reeve flying around and stuff. And there's so much about this movie I love, but I will never, ever get over the ending to this movie. I think this is one of the worst movie endings of all time. So, an earthquake hits California, the big one, and things are toppling and everything's falling apart. And Lois Lane is in this car that like falls into a crevice or something, and she's getting crushed or something. And meanwhile, Superman is like trying to hold the San Andreas Fault together, which I thought was ridiculous. And when he finally gets to Lois Lane, she's dead. And heartbreaking, tragic. And he flies off in a rage, which is so emotional. Like he's just angry and screaming as he flies off into space. And your heart's breaking. And then he starts flying around the planet as fast as he could possibly go. And the planet stops revolving and goes into reverse, and they start to show backwards footage of things getting undone, and he takes it back just long enough where now he can go in and save the day. And even as a teenager watching this movie, I sat there thinking,
that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
You can't go back in time by reversing the rotation of the planet. That is BS. I can't even get into the physics of all of it. But the bigger complaint...
How do you know? Have you done it? Have you tried it?
I watch science stuff. But the other problem I have with it is you can't give Superman that out. You can't say that he can fix everything by reversing the planet and going back in time. That is
There's so many movies
out.
that did that, though.
Like what?
Like Back to the Future, like Deadpool. Like
What?
We're going to see it in Infinity.
There's science behind like Back to the Future and stuff like that. Superman, to try and convince an audience that by
tell me
spinning
that
the
flux
Earth
capacitor is science.
There is science behind the DeLorean and the thing that it makes in front of the car. There is some science behind that. But I think the ending to Superman is one of the worst endings I've ever seen in a movie. I take it you don't agree, Ryan.
But think, Joe, if he did that, then you could see Reservoir Dogs
Before
before
Fiction.
Pulp
Exactly.
Fiction. So, I didn't even think about it necessarily. When I saw this movie, I was so young. It was totally plausible and okay for me. And I was happy that Lois was saved. So, didn't really faze me. I was happy, but older I got, I just haven't watched it again.
Yeah.
So, didn't even.
Just the backwards footage of boulders rolling uphill and everything getting undone. Ugh.
Wait, that was backwards footage?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I thought it was real.
Tim, you agree with me on this one?
Okay, as a big superhero comic book fan as a kid, I was never a Superman fan because he was so invincible. He could basically do anything he wanted.
Right.
So when that happened in the movie, I remember seeing it at the theater, and I remember people being upset about it and thinking it was stupid, but I didn't care because, he had already set himself up as being able to do anything that he wanted and being pretty much invincible. So why not add that to the list?
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, in the comics, Superman being an alien from another world, the gravity of Earth and the yellow sun gave him some abilities, but originally he was only able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Over time, they give him laser eyes and freezing
Super
breath
and
multiplying himself. And it's like,
bulletproof.
come on, man.
Just everything.
X-ray
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's, yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is like just having a stroke over this. Like, none of this is bound in science.
Well, just remember Lois was like, "What color underwear am I wearing?" I was like, "Yes, I want that."
Oh, they sold them in the back of the comic books. You could have got glasses. You could have got those glasses.
All right.
I tried.
Now, here's another one that may surprise listeners of this podcast.
Luke, we're ready for takeoff.
Good luck, Mando.
When we find Jabba the Hutt and that bounty hunter, we'll contact you.
I'll meet you at the rendezvous point on Tatooine.
Princess, we'll find Han. I promise.
Chewie, I'll be waiting for your signal. Take care, you two. May the Force be with you.
So here I am, 14 years old, sitting in a movie theater. All right, let's go rescue Han. Credits roll. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? We just waited 3 years for a sequel to Star Wars, and you end the sequel on a frickin' cliffhanger that I have to wait another 3 years to see get resolved. Now,
Genius.
Of course, Empire is one of my all-time favorite movies ever, but one of the worst endings in movie history. I, again, was angry sitting there in a theater going, I can't believe that's how they ended this movie.
I saw this on a whole bunch of lists of best endings.
Why do you agree? Do you think it's one of the best movies?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other on it. Star Wars is Star Wars to me. You guys know I'm not a Star Wars slappy like somebody else might be in this room.
Somebody, there's two of us.
I wasn't gonna point anybody out, but, so I didn't even really give it a thought if it was, and I didn't see them like you did, where I had to wait that long.
Yeah. I mean, it's different now because the Empire ends and you pop in Jedi and you keep the story going. So I don't think today's generation could appreciate what it was like being back then, teenager back then.
No, I mean, I was 8, and I the same thing. I was like, all right, here we go. What's gonna happen? And then, but I was sitting there thinking, man, seems like we've been sitting here a long time.
Yeah. Is this going to go another half hour?
At 8, I still really had no concept, not a real concept of time. So I was like, okay, let's get going. And then it ended that way. The only thing about it, I mean, I was disappointed at the time, but then again, I had hope because then I knew that there was going to be a continuation to the story. Because I remember after the original Star Wars, it just wasn't in my head that there was going to be a sequel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't. Something I thought about at 5 years old or 6 years old, whenever I saw the first one. But I think now looking back, I think people probably put that as the best, or list that as one of the best, because that was a huge gamble probably to do something to end that movie like that, especially a huge movie like that.
Yeah.
I mean that took some balls on Lucas's part.
Oh, sure. And think about this.
He got his balls snipped
after
between
but I mean, like,
that and Jedi.
When Star Wars came out, I'm 10 years old. Empire comes out. I don't think I was quite 14 yet. I might have been 13. Now 3 years go by. Now I'm 16, 17. I don't really. I mean, I saw Jedi. I liked it, but I wasn't buying the toys anymore. Now I'm entering adulthood. So to have someone grow out of Star Wars while you're waiting for that third movie of the trilogy, that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
So.
See, I think I hit all three of them just about the perfect time. But yeah, so it probably was double for you then, because a lot of people think Jedi was such a letdown compared to Empire, and it was such a difference in tone.
Yeah. I've heard people describe it as like a Star Wars Muppet show. But
yeah. I don't know. I love Return of the Jedi myself.
I like it. I enjoy it.
But I can understand people's gripes about it.
Yeah. All right, moving on to number 4 on my least favorite endings. I'm going to talk about the movie The Dark Knight Rises. Now, The Dark Knight, the second in the trilogy, I think is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, if not the greatest comic book movie ever made. And so there's huge anticipation for the next one. And I thought the entire movie was a bit of a letdown because it basically turned into a James Bond movie where you got a bad guy with a nuclear bomb and Batman has to save the day. So the movie was a bit of a letdown, but I think they totally wussed out on the ending. So Batman swoops in, grabs the nuclear weapon, flies out as far as he can over the water, and you see a mushroom cloud. And I'm sitting in a theater going, that took balls. They just killed off Batman. And I just thought that was a great ending. Like, okay, so they're going to end this trilogy with the death of Batman. And then I'm like, where's the credits? And they show Alfred go to, Paris, France or something, goes to some cafe and just happens to look over and see Bruce Wayne eating croissants with Catwoman. Yeah. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? That just ruined the entire ending of this movie. And I felt like it was something that a committee had decided, like, oh, we can't kill Batman. We gotta keep this going. And so they threw that add-on at the end. I was so disappointed, and I just hated that ending. I hated that happy ending. I wanted it to end with a mushroom cloud and let Batman be the hero. Ryan,
you wanted your happy ending to have a mushroom print? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Sorry. I don't care about this movie.
Yeah. You like The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't hate this movie. I just don't. It was another decent movie that I saw throughout my life. It definitely was no Dark Knight. That was more impactful and influential on movies as a whole, and what comic books movies are, and great performances and things like that. But this one is forgettable, honestly.
Yeah. Tim, do you agree?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, Bane was one of my favorite characters in the comics, and they did not get him right. They changed him around way too much, and so I was not really all into the movie anyway. So by the time the end came, I really didn't care. I saw this on a lot of people's lists, and at first I was kind of like, why? And then I had totally forgot that was the ending. And then, now didn't they set it up right before that the kid found the
they introduced Robin,
the Batcave?
Yeah.
So that would have been a good ending.
Yeah.
Right there, because then you could have been, oh, okay, well, he's going to turn into Nightwing or whatever, or take over Batman's mantle. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess I could see why people had an issue with it, but kind of like the Superman thing. I don't know. I guess I just don't really care that much about it.
Right. All right, number 5 on my worst endings. Even though I can't really describe this as one of the worst endings, to me, it's one of the most disappointing endings. Do you guys remember the 1998 movie, The Truman Show?
Yes.
Mhm.
So Jim Carrey plays a character who finds out that since birth, his life has been entertainment on television. People all over the world would tune in and watch his life on TV, and he's completely unaware. Then things start happening throughout the movie that start to clue him in that maybe he's the ultimate reality TV show. And we get to the ending, and there's a scene. I remember there's a scene where he's paddling out on the ocean, but then he runs into a wall. He like puts a hole in the wall and realizes that there's boundaries. And then he finds a door, and I'm like, holy crap, he's going to escape this reality TV show and enter the real world. And he goes up to the door and he turns the knob and he steps through the door and the credits roll. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I wanted to see him go out into the real world, find that girl that kind of tipped him off. And I wanted to see him explore the real world, see what the world was really like. And I'm disappointed that we never got that, never got a sequel, nothing. We just kind of left to our imaginations of what life was like for him once he got out of that dome. What are you guys' Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
I totally disagree with you. You couldn't do a sequel. That would just be a boring movie about Jim Carrey going around living a mundane life.
But that's why maybe they could have just tacked on another 10, 15 minutes of this movie.
I don't think it was necessary, though. I mean, you could just play that out on your own, and you know he's going to go find that girl, and you know he's going to just start to live a normal life, or try to anyways. He's still going to be uber famous. And he didn't just walk out the door. He did the little tagline that he always, greeted the neighbors with in the morning, like, good morning.
Good evening and good night, or something like that. Yeah.
I don't see you. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah.
So I thought that, I don't think that was one of the best movie endings ever, and I did see it on some lists, but I definitely didn't need anything more than him walking out of the dome.
I think I would have liked to have seen sort of a boy in the plastic bubble sort of a thing. There was a TV movie with John Travolta that came out in the 70s where he was trapped in a bubble his whole life, and he finally wanted to see what life was like outside the bubble. And
the bubble boy.
Yeah.
Bubble boy. Jake Gyllenhaal?
The moops. But no, so the boy in the plastic bubble leaves this bubble, and he feels the sun on his face and the wind on his face. I wanted just at least that.
Yeah, but then didn't he die?
They never revealed that. They never revealed if he died. They just showed him step out of his bubble.
there you
Well,
go.
why couldn't they had 10 more minutes or 15 minutes?
Watch him have an agonizing
to the bubble
death.
boy. To the boy in the bubble.
I just
Good call, Tim. Good call.
I agree
Shut
with
up.
Ryan wholeheartedly. I think that anything else that they would have tried to tack on there, I think it's better that they left it to our imaginations. I think anything else that they would have tried to write would have been a letdown at that point.
Yeah, I guess I have to agree with you, but I just wanted more. I just wanted more.
Well,
And maybe that was the intent. You're left wanting more, but...
If you want to nitpick this movie, I have a bigger problem with all of a sudden everything went to crap.
Right.
All of a sudden light fixtures are falling from the sky, and
Right.
background actors are eating craft services, and
Yeah.
radio stations are talking to him through his,
Yeah.
everything happened all of a sudden.
Right. All right, so those are my top 5 worst or most disappointing endings. Ryan, you got any bad ones or disappointing ones you want to throw out?
I do. I do got to point out that I can't believe that we go another podcast and have to hear about stupid Star Wars. Job Johnson. But I do have.
We're not done.
I do have 3 more. And I already mentioned La La Land, the next one. And Tim, I'm sorry, I might be stealing your thunder then. Star Wars Rogue One.
Oh, my goodness.
That surprises me.
Hate it.
How could you hate that movie?
They had no choice. They had to end it that way.
Don't make the movie. I got all invested in these stupid characters
that
and then
never appear in episode
anything.
1.
No, exactly. But they make this movie, so they're starting a different timeline or whatever.
It's
Not a different timeline, but a different perspective of a timeline. And then they just kill everybody off.
There's no way that they could have ended it any other way.
They could have
with all
just
those characters.
not made the stupid movie.
I loved it.
I did too.
It's in my
Hated
top 5 Star Wars movies.
Hated it.
It's probably in my top 3.
Yeah.
Ethan, who is also a Star Wars junkie like you two, hated it as well.
I mean, if you look at the movie on its own, if you didn't know the Star Wars universe existed and you sat down, let's say you came out of your coma, you sat down, you watched Rogue One, yeah, I would say, wow, that's a terrible ending.
And maybe
But they-
that's why,
but they
because I
had
don't
no
know.
choice.
Maybe that's because I don't know like the serial numbers on C-3PO and what color underwear Luke Skywalker has on, like you guys. But
no. All you really need to be familiar with is at the beginning, the first 5 minutes of the original Star Wars, for it to add up. I mean, really, the beginning crawl and like maybe the first couple minutes when the Star Destroyer overtakes the Blockade Runner.
Was that English you just said?
And for your information, the
Yeah.
trash compactor number is 326-3827.
There you go.
So there.
And TK421, why aren't you at your post?
And the Princess's cell is 2187. So I guess we showed you, didn't we?
Yeah, you guys really Rain Man that up. Good job. All right.
All right,
so-
you're wrong on that one. Next.
No, I'm not. So that was La La Land, Rogue One. Number 3 is a movie that is probably in one of my top 10, maybe top 5 favorite movies of all time. But I just hate the ending. And I don't know that it's not fitting. I don't like it. And that is Life is Beautiful.
Oh, painful.
Painful, right? This movie is an emotional roller coaster for starters. But then that ending, you just like, he tried and fought so hard and got so close, and then just nothing.
Man.
So it's super sad. Super.
The first half of the movie is
There's
kind of
your
like
gut
this
punch.
romantic comedy where he's trying to win the girl, and second half is this war drama where he's trying to protect his son. And I this is one I saw in the theater, and I remember being numb. Like, I can't believe what I just saw.
And again, one of my
Heartbreak.
favorite movies. I think it's amazing.
It is.
Anybody hasn't seen it, go watch it. If you watch it, it has to be done with the subtitles on. Do not watch the English dub version because that ruins it.
Yeah.
Roberto Benigni won Best Actor for a reason. He made this film. Don't English dub it, but do watch this movie.
Yeah. And
I don't think I've
brace yourself.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Wow.
What the?
It was another one that I wanted to see, and just for whatever reason, I never got around to it. But then when I started hearing like about what it was, and I kind of was like, man, I'm never going to be in the mood to watch that.
Right. It's definitely something you have to mentally prepare yourself.
That's why I've never seen Schindler's List either.
Yeah.
This one's a little different, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a gut punch. All right.
All right.
Any other?
So that was a good one, Ryan. Thanks, guys.
I'm sad now, man.
Wah, wah, wah. There is let's see, La La Land, that one. So I only had 4. The other one, this one isn't going to be on anybody's list. This one is entirely just because of when I saw it and what I was expecting. And that is Mad City with John Travolta and Dustin Hoffman.
Never saw that one.
No,
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
so it was a pretty decent movie, but the reason that I hate this ending is because John Travolta dies. And it was really, I think, the first time that I remember going to a movie and seeing a main character. He was the main character of the entire movie, and it not have a happy ending. And
Hey, I'm dying over here.
yeah, exactly.
He died in what was the one where he had like telekinetic
No,
power?
you're talking. That's his career.
No. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
you're talking about Phenomenon.
The
Yeah, he died
Bubble
in that
Boy.
one too.
Bubble Boy.
Oh.
We didn't see him die. in that one.
And the way he died in this movie too. So it's just it was, this guy was, you liked the Travolta character, and he was very distraught and had problems and going on, and you wanted to see him get better, and then he doesn't. And it was just one of the, I was like, man, that movie, that sucks. Like, I did not enjoy watching the character you're rooting for die. And maybe I'm a little hardened over the years, and now I wouldn't care. But back then when that came out, it really it bothered me, and I was not a fan.
Tim, you got any least favorite endings you want to throw out?
I do, and I believe we've discussed this one before. My number one most hated ending is a movie starring Dakota Fanning and Robert De Niro called Hide and Seek.
I remember you brought this one up before, but refresh my memory.
I went and saw this at the theater. The movie company even went to the lengths of sending a different reel with the ending on it to the theaters because it was so secretive. They didn't want anybody to figure it out. And, throughout the movie, basically, I want to say that he was her dad and he was a single dad, and she was being somebody named Charlie she was doing stuff to her, and then it turns out at the end that he's got another personality and it's Charlie, which you could have seen coming, which you did see coming, but you were like, no, they can't end it this way. That's like the most obvious ending that could possibly be. Yeah. And it was another vehicle for Dakota Fanning to scream through the whole movie. But anyway, yeah, that ending was horrible. That one I was actually very pissed off at the end of it at the theater.
That's what you want. Walk out of a theater angry at the ending.
Yeah, I was very upset with that one.
All right, what else you got?
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and
just the ending, eh?
Well, no, because that is the one movie that I remember, like maybe not halfway through, probably further along, but at one point I was just like, I do not even care what happens. Yeah. I would have left, but I was with my second ex-wife, and I thought she wasn't saying anything.
How many times you been married?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought she was enjoying it. And then as soon as we got over, she was like, what did you think of that? And I was like, I thought it was horrible. I would have walked out. And she's like, I was thinking that too. But anyway, I don't have the problem. I've seen this on people's list. My problem is not that it dealt with aliens. It was the execution of it.
Right.
It was just, I just didn't care for it.
I would have put this on my worst list if I just gave a crap. I think it's one of the worst movies ever made, and there's no redeeming qualities of this film at all. So to single out the ending, I'm like,
well, that's true.
Thing is garbage. So.
That's true.
I like it.
You did like this movie, didn't you?
I did.
What an idiot.
My number 3 worst is Contact with Jodie Foster, where she comes in contact with aliens at the end. The whole movie, you're kind of like looking forward to seeing what the alien's gonna look like, and it took the form of her father because it didn't want to freak her out or whatever. And I was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I remember when I didn't see Contact in the theater, but there was all this hubbub. It might have even been like Oscar nominated, and I'm like, okay, what's the big deal? And I finally got around to seeing it, and I did not like the movie. I thought it was one of the most boring sci-fi movies I've ever seen.
But I was watching it thinking, okay, well, at least if they have a cool alien at the end, it might save it a bit.
Yeah.
But they don't, and it didn't.
Jodie Foster's boring.
Well, I mean, she can be, but I mean, she wasn't boring in Silence of the Lambs. But
I thought she was boring.
Really?
It's a good movie. I thought she was boring.
She wasn't boring in Taxi Driver.
That's true. But no, because of Contact, I never got around to seeing that other movie that came out. I think Amy Adams was in it. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
Where they get like an alien signal, and I think that was Oscar nominated. And I'm like, that's.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I did want to see that, but I never did.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
A couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like Cloverfield or anything.
No.
It's
this was like an Oscar nominated movie.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that one either.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple years ago.
Oh, is that the one where like with the hand?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it either.
My next one would be War of the Worlds 2005.
Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning.
Yeah. Another
I
one.
saw that on a lot.
Why do you hate Dakota Fanning so much?
She screams
because this is another one where her whole performance was one long scream through the whole movie. But
I had to stop the movie. I was watching it and I stopped it. I couldn't take it anymore.
But that's not why this is on the list. The ending just kind of is abrupt, and the aliens end up dying off because of the bacteria on Earth.
Yeah.
And it ends with a Morgan Freeman voiceover explaining like why it happened, which is ridiculous.
To the penguins.
Yeah, pretty much.
The aliens caught a cold.
That was basically the gist of it. Yeah. That was it.
Achoo.
Right. I ended up seeing this movie 2 times at the theater, honestly, because I wanted to see one of them at the drive-in.
Because you love Dakota Fanning.
And it was playing before the other movie that I had to see.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to
Did
sit
she
through it
scream
twice.
through the whole thing of Charlotte's Web?
I don't.
She
I never
was
saw
in,
that
I never.
one.
Yeah, and I never saw that
Liars.
remake.
They're lying.
No, I didn't. Why would you mess with Perfection, the original?
Yeah, exactly.
Some pig.
And my last one is Time Bandits. I remember seeing this as a kid, and I liked this movie all the way through. But as a kid, the ending, you're just kind of like, what just happened? Because his parents go to touch that thing that was in the toaster, and then they like blow up, and then he's just like, Mom, Dad, and then boom, and then they pan out, and that's it.
I vaguely remember that movie.
I don't even know what this movie is.
You've never seen Time Bandits either?
I saw it like once on cable a
Oh my
long time
goodness.
ago.
That's where that
No, I saw
statement,
it
if you
there.
rewind, if Superman rewinds this, where I said, I don't even know what that movie is. No clue.
Oh.
Is that with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Time Bandits is another
No, that was
movie
Time Cop. That was a
jumping.
good one.
Oh, Time Cop.
No, it had a lot of little people. I think you would like it actually.
Love me some littles.
Here's some honorable mentions. This just set outside my top 5.
Marty! You've got to come back with me!
Where?
Back to the future!
No, Doc. I just got here, okay? Jennifer's here. We're going to take the new truck for a spin.
Well, bring her along. This concerns her, too.
Wait a minute, Doc. What are you talking about? What happens to us in the future? What, do we become assholes or something?
No, Marty. Both you and Jennifer turn out fine. It's your kids, Marty. Something has got to be done about your kids.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Now, apparently, when Back to the Future came out and they had this ending, there was no intention of doing a sequel. They wanted to end the first movie on that note just to leave people speculating as to where it was going. But the movie was such a monster hit that obviously they had to do a sequel. And I don't think, as much as I like the sequels, I don't think either one of them come anywhere near the original. But it was such a great ending to see just Doc come out of nowhere.
I don't like the third one at all.
The Western? Yeah. Tim,
Stupid
did you
train.
like the ending on this one?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I thought it was great, actually. I remember seeing it at the theater, and I think I got to see like a sneak preview of it. So I saw it a little bit earlier than when it came out. And I remember just watching it and not thinking it was going to be the huge. I loved it, but I didn't think it was going to be the huge success that it was.
Yeah.
I was fired up at the end. It got me going. I was like, yeah.
Gotta go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
in time.
Yeah, it was great.
Tim,
Gotta
here's
go
one.
back in time.
Here's one that I thought you were going to bring up.
Don't quit your day job.
I thought you were going to bring this one up, Tim. Tell me if you could name this movie.
If you're worried about me,
If we've got any surprises for each other, I don't think we're in much shape to do anything about it.
well, what do we do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
Name that movie.
That's easy. The Thing. Got any more brain busters?
I love the ending to The Thing. The camp is on fire. You don't know if either one of them is the Thing. And then they roll credits. I love the ending to The Thing.
I don't think I liked it as a kid.
Oh, really?
Because the same reason. It was like, just add 10 more or 15 more minutes on it. Let's see what happens. But yeah, just because it was such an ambiguous ending, I didn't appreciate it as a kid. Now I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, to end that way. And they did actually do a sequel first. Oh, well, the only sequel I think they've done to it was in the comics.
Oh, okay.
And it pretty much starts out right there.
One thing that's interesting about the thing is you mentioned a sequel. I look at it as more of a sequel to the original black and white thing, because it sort of picks up where the first
I've never
one
seen the
left
original
off. Yeah,
thing.
it's a completely different monster. It's a big cheesy
Yeah.
Frankenstein monster sort of.
Yeah, wasn't he supposed to be like a vegetable or a carrot?
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Veggie Tales?
just about. Do you have memories of the ending of The Thing?
Nope.
Nothing. Move on.
The only thing I know of is a big orange rock.
A big orange rock. Oh, the
Thing.
from Fantastic Four.
With the dong, the rack dong.
Okay.
Was this dork made of orange rock?
Yeah, it's dork. That's what it was.
Couple honorable mentions. Another gut punch of an ending. Have you guys seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I've never seen that.
1975.
Never have.
Gut. I mean, this rivals Life is Beautiful for gut punch of an ending. Even though they did
Big
kind
Chief
of
gets away. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but Jack Nicholson's character.
So I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. So that's how I found out what a lobotomy was.
Right.
And I was,
Yeah. So, I mean, it ended on that note of the chief picking up the sink and throwing through the window and leaving, but had to sacrifice Jack Nicholson, and that was just heartbreaking, man. That was Cuckoo's Nest, I think, was like one of the first grown-up movies I saw. Like, prior to Cuckoo's Nest, I was always watching sci-fi and fantasy and animation and stuff. And when I saw Cuckoo's Nest, which was a lot later in life for me, it made me look at movies a completely different way. I was like gut punched by that movie. What are you laughing at?
The way you say Cuckoo's Nest.
What's the name of them? I don't want to say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest every time.
It's fine. I don't know. It's just the way you're like, Cuckoo's Nest. Like, I don't know. It amused me.
Well, I amuse you like a clown.
It's just funny. I'm just saying you're funny. You're a funny guy.
I don't think we talked about this movie, did we? We talked about its sequel, but
Where is the Ark?
I thought we'd settled that. The Ark is somewhere very safe. From whom?
The Ark is a source of unspeakable power, and it has to be researched.
And it will be, I assure you, Dr. Brody. Dr. Jones, we have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
So after seeing what the Ark is capable of in this movie, one of the most dramatic fantasy moments, the movie ends with it being boarded up into a crate, taken into a warehouse, and hidden away with millions, it looks like millions of other crates. Yeah. Who knows what's in all these other crates?
Right.
And this is an ending.
It didn't seem very hidden to me, by the way. It just seemed like...
Well, he kind of turns a corner and disappears down an aisle, and it's lost the time.
Yeah, but it's like on Studio Lot C.
It's at Area 51.
Yeah.
So love it or hate it, I think it's one of the greatest endings of all time, where after everything we went through in that movie, it just
they just go box it up and go
throws it in a
put
warehouse.
It in storage, right?
Yeah.
Storage Wars.
Yep.
Crazy ending. Other honorable mentions. The Others with Nicole Kidman, that has a great twist at the end.
Oh yeah.
Unbreakable, another M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie. Let's see. Let's talk about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where it's based on a true story, but people sort of disagree as to what happened to the real life Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The general consensus is that they were gunned down in a battle with the Mexican army, but people say that they continued to live long lives. So this movie kind of left it up to the viewer, where Butch and Sundance come out of this building and freeze frame, and you hear gunfire and stuff like that, but they freeze frame and leave it up to your imagination as to what happened to Butch and Sundance. Any other honorable mentions you guys want to throw out?
Yeah, I'm upset at myself. I forgot my list, so I was just trying to go off memory, and I left out one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's Fight Club.
Oh yeah.
I thought, did you show me a piece of paper?
That was on my honorable mentions of worst endings.
All right, so
No.
Yes.
I don't know how we're friends because everything you like, I hate, and vice versa. I thought it was amazing. How is that a worst ending?
That was a cop out. I just thought it was a cop out. Like
Cop
really?
out.
That was a twist for twist's sake.
No.
You could say the same thing about Sixth Sense then. Like,
not my thing.
No, I mean, there's a lot of them that I would classify as that, but Fight Club is not one of them. I thought it was great.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Hey,
Great movie too.
agree to disagree.
I'd talk about it, but I can't.
Anything else? We're running out of time.
Go ahead, Tim.
Tim, any?
The only other one that I want to throw out there is the original Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, there is one more I got too then. I forgot about this one. Also, and that is The Natural.
Mm-hmm.
That iconic moment where the
takes the
lights
out.
are.
Was that the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights are popping.
That's a great movie moment.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is. Classic.
Tim, did you have one you were throwing out?
You
I
did.
already said the original Night of the Living
Oh,
Dead.
I thought you had another one after that.
Nah.
Well,
I mean, I got
refresh
a
my
couple.
memory. How did the original Night of the Living Dead end?
They shoot the good guy, the main character.
Day happens.
Who shot him?
The guy, the zombie hunters.
They think he was a zombie?
Well, that's up for debate.
Oh, my last terrible one. Bird Box. Screw you, Bird Box.
On that note, thanks for listening to our latest edition of Movies for Dumb Guys. See you next time. Good night, everybody.